The HAVENBELL Trilogy, Book 1, The Child of Harmony, Chapter 5, Feathers and Foes. The first night back at Josephera, Trillium had a dream about an engulfing black shadow that had covered the land. She woke up in a cold sweat. Phariseph stirred in his satin sheets as he heard Trillium's sandals click across the marble floor. She sat down gently by his side and ran her soft fingers through his hair. "What are you doing up?" "You can't move." He saw a green flicker in her eyes he had never seen before. He tried to move her but couldn't. A black figure appeared out of the shadows and flashed before him. The silhouette shot arrows through Trillium in the moonlight. Her body lingered for a moment and then collapsed lifeless. Everything went black. Phariseph felt like he was floating while asleep, like his soul was floating above him instead of being anchored down inside. He slowly felt more connected somehow. As he opened his eyes, he saw a blurry black figure, but something was wrong with his wings. "Who? What? Trillium! They killed her!" Tears streamed from his eyes. The Josepherian sat close to him, and then he realized it wasn't a feather, but a fairy, a large one. Phariseph believed he looked familiar, but he had never met him before. "Nonsense, Your Majesty," the fairy replied with a smile. "How is that possible? I saw her get shot." "Nonsense again. She is alive and well. It was a wizard that died. Trillium was the one who killed her, but only after she poisoned you. You have been asleep for 3 days. They called on Queen Esmeralda to make you a special potion of the rare orchids to heal this wizard's spell. I was sent here with it to watch over your recovery." "Where is she? Please send her to me now." "I cannot, for she has left Josephera." "To where? I must see her." "I do not know, sir. That business is none of my own." "I must ask my father and find out." He leaped out of bed, but his knees buckled beneath him, and he fell flat on his face. The fairy helped him up. "Unfortunately, you are my business, and you are not well enough yet. I am the prince, and I must find her. Your father will not let you, for he was the one who gave me the order. Not to worry, Miss Blackwood will return in a couple days. Lie and rest. I must let your parents in on the good news." Trillium rode Ivory to Misty Falls, where an Andrella scout met up with her. He brought her Andrella clothing. She changed her clothes and got into the water. When she got waist deep, she began to feel the change. It was indeed strange, not painful or pleasurable. He guided her to the Coral Kingdom. There were crowds of Andrella outside the place. This time they weren't scared or curious. This time they knew who she was. "That's her. That's Trillium the half-breed. How lucky to be able to walk on the land as well. Wish she could tell us what it's like." Trillium smiled as she swam by. When she approached the throne, the Sea King bolted up, grabbed her shoulders, and pressed his forehead to hers. Trillium smiled warmly. "Hello, Your Majesty. Good to see you once again." "Even better to see you. How are things going up above?" "Good and bad. I'm still naive, awkward, and I have a great deal to learn." "Use your eyes and ears, my girl. I have summoned you for a reason other than to see your face again. Your mother gave me something years ago before her passing. I had forgotten all about it until recently. I apologize. I would have given it to you sooner." He held out a golden half-circle that hung from a chain. She took it and smiled. Anything her mother had touched was a precious gift. It had an engraved letter Z. She grabbed for her pack but realized it wasn't there. Ivory had her belongings. She put it around her neck. It hung heavy with the weight of the metal that kept it floating like her amulet did. "I have the other half. What does it do?" "I don't know, only that she said you would find out on your own." "That's helpful. Why must everything be such a puzzle?" "Lessons are taught better when you learn them for yourself." "True, King William," she sighed. I completely disagree with that. I think that Duran should have told her everything. I think that she should have been briefed and trained about everything because she'd be stronger, much stronger. than all these stupid, puzzles they keep giving her and they don't tell her anything. The only reason why I do that is for the reader. So I kind of did that for the reader, not for Trillium, because it doesn't help Trillium. It actually makes her a lot weaker than she would have been. There is something else I long to tell you. Your mother was the Princess of Phadia, and your grandmother Serenity is Queen. We lost them both in the fire of Phadia, which makes you the unknowing Queen of Phadia. He paused and then laughed. You feel you may be worthy of Phariseth's love now? Trillium gasped. She knew she had not thought this to him. He plucked it straight out of her mind. Hey, she shouted for being violated. I can't help it. I know, he smiled. Where is your son? I would so like to see him. You just missed him, I'm afraid. He's at the barracks with the warriors. He's training how to use weapons for battle. But he is so young. Don't you think that will give him a violent nature? We train the mind and body early. We are not barbarians like the ogres of Orzo. Our combat is based on much discipline, very much like the arts they used to teach our ancestors. We all fight with the blade. I guess Zed must learn early in defending himself, she agreed. May I take a tour of the kingdom and the barracks? I would like to see some of the training, and Zed, of course. I don't see why not, but you must take 2 guards with you. I think I can handle it. Have you fought underwater? No. We have reason to believe that there are traitors among us, be it here in the sea, up in Josephera, or in the land of Phadia. The Dark Ones are sly, and they have many spies. They bribe the poor with riches, the rich with power, and the common with magic. Best to be safe at all times. Aye, William. He summoned his guards with the necklace he wore. 2 swam forward. One was very large and the other one thin. This is Felice, second in command with the Adrella army, and Riley, a private with a slight attitude problem. Hey, sir, don't have to insult me now. Always bustin' me chops, so ye are. Take care of her. Yes, sir. Phariseth lay resting when he felt the whole room shake. Things fell from the ceiling. He jumped up, startled. Looking out of the window, he could see black smoke in the air. He heard many screams. He got up. It felt a little weird to walk at first, but he was stronger than he had been before, a reward for having it in good with the fairies. Their medicine worked well, even on the darkest of spells. He dressed and headed to the armory. Out in the courtyards, people ran around like aggravated ants. Phariseth saw some dark feathers, easy to spot because their wings had gone black. They knelt in a stance and fired cannons upon the palace walls. Another shot fired. 2 pillars cracked and tumbled, leaving the roof to the dining room slanted and crushed. Pieces of glass flew out in all directions. Phariseth shouted, and some were knocked down. He slid across the marble floor and came to the door of the armory. He had seen his father open it before, so he held his amulet to the scanner and the door opened. When he walked in, he realized that he was not the first one here. There was a hole in the back wall, and almost all of the weapons had been raided. He found some body armor and 2 long swords, though far from the best of them. He realized how weak his body had become. After suiting up, he rushed out to the commotion. Somehow the Dark Ones had penetrated their protective shield and entered the castle. Close to 60 of them hunkered behind a self-made barricade. They had 5 cannons they used to fire at the walls. There were goblins and Dark Ones of different races. The dark feathers must have flown them up here. Then he remembered the dreaded dragon of flames that had rescued the wizards from being trapped inside of the field in Fairy Island. The eye gave them great power indeed. A group of 5 moved in formation, battling troops on the ground. They killed the warriors and imprisoned the rest inside of a great wooden cage. 2 black rebels charged him. He ducked as one swung a mace at his head. He dodged it, but the second swing got his ribs. He kicked the first one down, sending him sprawling. The second closed in for a body slice. The swords clashed as Phariseth fought off their slashes with ease, despite of his weakness. Although each Josepharian had trained with swords, none had been as thoroughly trained as he. He also doubted that this group in particular had been fed or treated well by their captors. The brood took their souls, but weakened their minds as well. This time his skill could not block the first one, who got a good swing with his mace at his arm while he was busy fighting the other. He had had just enough time to bully the swordsman to the ground. With one good swipe, he beheaded his foe. Phariseph wondered where his backup was. There was some of his army fighting, but not anywhere close to the number they had in troops. He stabbed the first one in the chest as he lay stunned. Then Phariseph rushed to the other side of the palace to check out the action. It was worse on this side. There were more troops here, and the palace was more damaged than he had thought. The courtyard was a battlefield. He spotted part of the feather army and rushed to them to advise them, but they all pulled their swords on him. "What? What is the cause of this? You should be fighting for your kingdom. They are destroying your home. You dare turn upon me now? You offer us nothing. Our pay does not rise. Our hard work goes unnoticed. They, on the other hand, offer us magic, power, and treasure. We shall form a new alliance of feathers, bigger and better than of now. If I am not mistaken, it is them who possess the eye. Your kingdom is falling, and the dark ones will prevail." "You believe their lies?" "Better than we believe yours. Prepare for your death, my lord." 1 hour before this, inside of the Mountains of Shadow, the wizards prepared their arms. Jade, Tolan, Tambit, and Lar were upset that their plan had failed. Though they poisoned the prince, Aurora was killed by the half-breed. Aurora was the apple of all their miserable eyes, after all, and they were full of much rage over this. Most of the army were minor wizards with limited abilities. All of the Josepharian slaves were rounded up as well. For each 3 of them, they could lift a cannon or 5 elf slaves, small as they were. Mutt heard the commotion from the kitchen where he carried buckets of fish heads and animal guts into the slaves' kitchen, where they would be boiled into a broth. He dumped them off and then passed by the cells of the enslaved. They were being weeded out for this battle and then chained together. They lined up and grabbed weapons from a large pile. Shouts and demands echoed through the cave. "Psst!" Mutt heard somebody call from within the white, pasty faces. He looked around and saw nothing. "Psst!" he heard again, and saw the old hag crouched down in her cell with her hands stretched out between the bars. Somehow she looked different from the rest, more alive somehow. Mutt passed it off. She was probably a new one. Then he looked into her pale green eyes. He could see the youth within her. She almost looked like a teenager at one point, then faded back into an old woman. Mutt leaned in, hypnotized. "Boy, you must let me out of here." "I can't do that." "You don't understand. Let me out and I'll blend in with the others. I must go where they are going." His head felt light. "Don't use that voodoo on me, you old hag. You'll get me killed." He turned to go make a fresh batch of grog. They had many new fairies indeed. "Jack Falconberry!" she cried. Mutt whipped around, startled. He hadn't heard his own name in many winters. He slowly came back to where she was crouched. "How the hell did you know that?" he hissed venomously. "Are ye a witch, old one?" "Nay, but I am familiar with Fathia, for I once lived there myself. I know you dream of returning, even though the elves were cruel to you. I can feel that you have been treated worse since you've been here. The only reason they haven't killed you is because you have a power. It lies dormant, but if they can control you, they can harness it. It may kill them if they try to kill you. Fear has kept you here, along with the hold the grog has on you. You're lonely, and you want out as much as I do, Jack. A second chance." A tear rolled down his cheek, and then he quickly wiped it away with annoyance. He felt torn and scared. She took out an old green amulet from beneath her rags. It began to glow, and inside a face appeared, somewhat familiar but long forgotten. It was his own face, without the corruption, poison, and the fat he hated so much. He even looked handsome. "You will come back. Now help me." For a moment she didn't think he'd believe her. "You better not get me killed, old one," he responded. "Do you know a spot halfway up the first mountain where they used to bury people long ago?" "Yeah, the Flatland Cemetery. That place gives me the jeepers. Kind of like you do. Something will be left for you. Call it a reward. I give you my word. Now make sure there is bow and arrows waiting for me in that pile." She pointed towards it. "What about the rest of them?" The cellmates seemed unconcerned with their conversation. "Don't worry, they are with me and they harbor hope. This may be your last chance." He nodded and stood up. As he walked away to scheme his plan, he did something he hadn't done for a very long time. He smiled. Trillium had explored most of the grounds. She was fascinated with this underwater city. Then she had a vision. "Wait!" she screamed. The guards drew their weapons and surrounded her. "I must return to the small island with the waterfall. Do you know of it?" The guards took a breath of relief and put their weapons away. "Yes, but why?" "Something is wrong in Josephera. I must return." "As you wish, child." Without even seeing Zede or saying farewell to the king, she rushed to the island close to land. "Thank you for your service," she said to the guards. "Tell William that I will see him again soon." They gave her a salute and went on their way. She glanced upward and could see the black smoke in the sky. She jumped on Ivory. "I hope I'm not too late." Phariseph was surrounded. He heard a laugh that he recognized. Morgan appeared before him. She was armed with a golden sword. It all started to make sense. You're the one who let them through. They needed someone on the inside to do it, and it doesn't surprise me that it would be you." "I'd watch my tongue, Prince." "How did you guess? The one you denied time and time again has come back to strike you down." He could see black feathers in her wings. "What did they promise you?" Morgan tore the swords out of his hands and slid them to her guards with her telekinesis. "First of all, I get powers, and I get to be the ruler of the new alliance. With the eye in their power and the arrogance you and your father lay upon your people, not many shall resist the takeover. Your father is guilty of many crimes against the people of Ortso. He has a great price on his head, and you are betraying our people by loving an elf. Your mother is dead. Your father has been sent to Ortso for many summers of torture. You have no siblings, and you are mine until I decide to kill you. Your kingdom has fallen." She laughed and mimicked a bow. "It's not true!" Phariseph screamed. She turned to her new army. "Throw him in the cage with the others. I'll see you later." They bound his hands and put him in the cage. He realized he was now just as scared as the women he was now joining. All crammed together in this cage to watch as his comrades were being killed. His kingdom was falling, and there was nothing he could do about it. Just then 30 more black feathers appeared, carrying more troops. They were ordered by the leader to spread out around the palace. All of them dispersed, leaving only 5 guards to watch the cage. Phariseph tried to semi-sit to rest. "I'm sorry, I have failed you all." He looked at his feet. He was saddened by what he hoped was a lie about his mother, and ashamed that his own people would turn on him. "It's okay, Phariseph," one stated. "Stay strong." Thump, 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 ah! Thump, thump, ah! They all turned their heads. Each guard had been shot in seconds, falling down like dominoes. They all got an arrow through the neck with amazing precision. They all moved at once, rocking the cage. He expected to see a general or a head officer, maybe even Trillium, but what they saw was an old lady. She looked like a slave, dressed in rags, and not as healthy as most elves. The bow she held was worn and bent a little. "Nice shooting!" Phariseph cheered. He guessed even their own people could turn on them as well. "I may be rusty, and this bow may be a piece of crap, but have you ever seen such shooting?" "Nay, lady, I have not." This made her grin. She almost looked 20 summers younger. She plucked the keyring off of the general guard and unlocked the cage. "Ladies, I want you to fly up to the further clouds for protection," the old woman demanded. After Phariseph got out of the cage, he turned to the old one. "You just saved a prince, lady. Thank you. Who are you?" She bowed. "No one of any importance." "I beg to differ. I must get my father's sword. Will you be safe?" She winked, and that was enough. He ran into the Palace of Ruins. There was enough of the hallway left to make it to the throne room. Though half of the room had fallen inwards, he made it to his father's throne. He waved his amulet in front of the main jewel on the back of his chair and heard a click. The box upon where the king sat his feet, a hidden compartment slid out, revealing his father's battle sword. He grabbed it and ran back on a rampage. More black feathers appeared, carrying baskets of 4 to 5 elven slaves armed with swords, maces, spears, and bow and arrows. Phariseph returned to battle. A group of about 50 began to form. 50 to 15 did not look like very good odds. The prince looked at the old woman. "So you think we can take 'em on?" "No need to fret any longer, Prince." She pointed behind him. He turned to see a sky full of his troops. Captain Kirod led the winged army. "Took long enough." Phariseph's spirit lightened. They began shooting arrows at the dark ones. A few fell and arrows bounced off of their chest plates. Phariseph rushed to a storage shed and pulled out 2 cans of paint. He ripped the arm of his shirt and returned to the old woman. "Take this and mark our army with this blue paint. It'll help us to recognize traitors." "Aye." He waved to the army, pointed at the old lady, and gave a thumbs up to let them know she was fighting with them. She looked like a dark slave, after all. "Be aware of traitors among us. You must wear this paint. If one of our own attacks, you must take them down, even if you've known each other for many summers. We cannot trust that they can return to our side once again. Understood?" "Aye." "You wish to ruin such precious metal?" one of them spoke up, proving the arrogance only Josepharians could possess. "Soon we may no longer have a kingdom." The old woman splattered paint on each of them, Phariseph included. He felt proud to hold his father's sword, and he intended to honor it. He still felt weak in the limbs. The old one touched him, and a glowing energy took over his body. He felt more alive than ever. "Thanks. Ready, troops? Line up! Attack!" They rushed at the line of 30 enemies. Arrows whizzed and swords clinked. Phariseph knocked 2 down, and a third came behind him and slashed at his lower back. His armor took most of the blow. He whizzed around, but the third fell before he could swing the sword. When the body fell, he saw Trillium standing there, with bow still raised. "Thank heavens!" he smiled. "Let's go." The Dark Ones continued to shoot cannons at the palace walls. "Split up. We need half of you on the other side to stop those cannons. Go." Half of them dispersed. Trillium began to go with them, but he pulled her back. "Please stay." He had lost so much, and he couldn't bear to be parted from her. "They needed me on the west side. I promise I will return." Reluctantly, he let her go. "You better." They had begun to start fires from within the castle as well. Smoke billowed out from the windows. The winged army flew in, 3 catapults with them. General Kirod approached the prince. "What's the word, my lord?" "About 50 on the west side and 30 here. Give us a lieutenant and go down to the west side with the rest to take down the stragglers. If we are going to win, we must take down the cannons. Watch over the elven girl. She is a good fighter, but she is the child of harmony and must be guarded." "Aye." The old woman came up behind him. The old woman came up behind Kirod and splattered paint on his arm. "Hey!" "She's on our side. There are many traitors among us. We are marked in blue." The general nodded and called to his lieutenant to stay and guard the prince. Another cannon shot, shaking the walls behind them. Rubble flew about. The old elven woman shot at the soldiers behind the cannons. 3 fell like lightning, but one flopped about with an arrow in his leg. "Piece of crap!" she yelled, and threw the old bow down, and stole a bow from the winged one before he knew what happened. He looked at her stunned and bewildered. "Use your sword! I need this!" He pulled his sword and began clashing with another. When the front guards were down, she yelled, "Rush them now!" The soldiers obeyed. Their line moved forward, some pushing the others with swords half in their necks and stomachs. They pushed, sending the last of the line over the edge, along with 3 cannons. They screamed as they spiraled down and faded, as did their flailing bodies. 2 of the winged enemies simply flew back up to fight. As one came into view, Phariseph crouched and waited. As the wings came into view, he sliced them and they fell. Trillium fought the west side, with General Kirod never far from her side. They set up catapults and filled them with large iron spike balls. The general coated them with oil and set them ablaze. 3, 2, 1, fire! The ball crashed into a group of 12. Though they tried to move from it, it did them no good. 10 went down, either on fire screaming or mortally punctured. A dark feather reeled as one of his wings was shot. He shot 2 arrows, which he easily dodged, but was taken surprised when a sword sliced her left arm by one crawling on the ground. She kicked the feather in the chest, sending him back. She did a couple backward flips in the air and shot him through the neck. "Sorry, my lady, I didn't see him coming." "Neither did I. He played dead until I got close enough." What a sight to see feather on feather combat. Longtime friends and comrades battled it out, using all of the same techniques that were taught to them. Farisev's grief began to build. This was the worst thing he could ever imagine. He was forced to kill his own. Yes, this was all about empty promises and greed. He was certain there was more to it than just persuasion. He saw 2 of his strongest soldiers chopped down. The fresh army had just loaded the first catapult on the east side. At the signal, the white ones rushed back. 6 went down on the other side. The old woman pressed backs with Farisev, keeping an eye out at all times. "Is there any way we can save these slaves? They are still prisoners, you know, seduced by the grog. I myself, when imprisoned, had set many free from the spell. If we can use that cage I found you in, I could free more later." "We have no time for that, I fear." "Please, I beg you, I know these elves, and you know these feathers." "We shall try, but we must wipe out the Dark Army first." The battle on the west side seemed to bring new life back into Trillium. She was a peaceful creature, but yet she was taught to raise and fight. No matter what the circumstances, she truly enjoyed it. She shot 2 winged ones that charged up behind the general. He himself was busy in a sword fight. They dropped. One wriggled around with the arrow stuck in his back. She shot him again. A few took notice of her and decided to back away and fight someone else. They felt they wanted to live a while longer. "You bunch of cowards!" the dark captain screamed. "Take her first unless you all want to die." She shot 3 arrows as fast as lightning, but he easily deflected him with his shield. She shot 4 this time, but they all bounced off of his armor. He closed in on her and swung. She nimbly flipped back out of his reach. She aimed again quickly and shot him 4 times. She used her foot to knock the sword from his hand. He stared at her with wonder. She dislodged his chest plate and drove his own sword into his heart. On the east side, most of the enemies were defeated. About 11 slaves shouted from inside the cramped cage, helpless to do anything but watch the fight. A captain took down 2, and the old lady stole the life out of another before he knew what happened. All looked secure now. The standing army went body to body, killing the wounded and checking for shallow breaths to end. Before they could relax, 2 black wings appeared from the clouds below. He was the tallest Josepharian Farisev had ever seen. He had black hair, pale skin, and bruise sores around his mouth. He even dwarfed Farisev, who stood 6'3". The wizard quickly took down 6 soldiers with his blue-flamed arrows. The rest stood stunned. "Who the hell is that guy?" the captain shouted. "Tambit," the old woman answered with disgust. He was the worst. Well, almost. She had seen him kill about 15 slaves and beat over 30. He was strong, and even once she was off of the brew and at her strongest, she could not touch his mind. Every ally left all had the same idea and raised their bows. No one was getting close to that bastard with a sword. They all shot at once, but Tambit deflected each one like sticks. They shot the catapult, but he raised his arms and made it explode, sending pieces of metal in all directions. They tried the arrows again, more this time, but failed. Tambit looked slightly amused and then began to stride forward. Just then the elf's amulet began to glow its deep emerald green, getting brighter and lighter every second. Tambit shielded his eyes, and Farisev rushed in, getting a nice slice on Tambit's bulging quad muscles. "Damn you!" he cursed and dropped behind the clouds. He'd had enough of that poisoning light. "I don't think so." Farisev motioned to the old elf and held out his hand. She took off her amulet and handed it to the prince. He followed the dark wizard. Tambit turned around laughing. He knew he would destroy his follower. Tambit readied his sword, as did Farisev. He suddenly dipped low beneath him, barely missing Tambit's blade. He followed the prince lower and got ready to chop his head off. One swing was all he needed. As he prepared his deadly blow, Phariseph revealed the amulet, and Tambit screamed. Without knowing anything but pain, he raised himself by reflex above the clouds once more. The old woman shot him full of arrows, giving Phariseph time to make his final blow. Tambit fell into the sea, where hungry sharks awaited him. Morgan appeared with a dark one with wings. When Morgan approached, the others stood back. Only the general stood close behind her. "Looks like you fight pretty well. I can't say the same for your winged lover. He has been captured and will be brought back to the Mountains of Shadow." Trillium scowled and shot arrow upon arrow at her, but Morgan misdirected each one just by raising her hand. Trillium was shocked. She knew that Morgan had no prior power. "So they have changed you. You're the one who started this attack on your own people. Save your words, elf. If I kill you, I will gain more power. Now taste this." With her telekinesis, she lifted every sword that lay without a lively hand and sent them speeding through the air at her. Trillium's mind was sharp, and she saw everything in slow motion. She dodged them all with a series of jumps, swerves, and rolls. The last came close and pinned her to the cracked marble ground by the sleeve of her shirt. "Phariseph and I shall rule a kingdom together, 10 times more powerful than this one was." Trillium's amulet began to glow and flicker like her green eyes. Morgan winced. The general rushed her and grabbed at her armor. He barely pulled it free, but she caught his head with her hand, and he collapsed. Trillium let out a war cry and shot 8 arrows like lightning at Morgan. She screamed with pain and then smiled as Trillium looked over her dying body. "There is a wizard unlike the rest of them. He is bigger and stronger than them all. He fancies me most, dear. He is Lar, and he will come for you." Morgan died, and Trillium stood over her for a moment. Phariseph, the old woman, and their army rushed into where Trillium was just as she began plucking her arrows out of Morgan's body and stuffing them back in her quiver. She looked up and saw them. They all looked at her in amazement. She kissed Phariseph and held him tight. They embraced in the quiet battlefield. The surviving soldiers stood watching them, not sure what to do. Rubble, smoke, and bodies lay everywhere. They had no idea where to go from here, but the owl had the answer.